say you must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance, but homie, you're dead wrong. Just take a glance, attack me if you dare, son, I will crush you. I'll crack your back, you should be scared, son, I'll bust you. Just go home and be a family man. If not, I'm gonna have to destroy your anatomy, man. It's natural for someone like me to be the world's strongest, because I'm on this, just being honest. I astonish, my
Sonic Boom
flash kicks are right here waiting for you. Wanna get your ass kicked for your plastic. Your kung fu is weak and mine is chic and spastic. Fantastic, you're not a warrior, you're just a beginner. Get up, wimp, and bask in the glory of a winner. My strength is much greater than yours. I'm a street fighting legend, the creator of wars. No use debating the score, I've waited patiently for someone to pound through the ground. I'll smash your face in the floor. Get lost, dog, I'm the boss, you can't compare with my powers. I play this game for the fame, they claim to hundreds of hours.
Listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win.
What is going on, guys? It is Mr. Behavior, and he is Ceelows.
What up? What up?
This is the Anti-Oki Podcast, where we are the FGC podcast that believes men are men and women are women. Even though
she doesn't, so we're gonna talk about it.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. How the hell have you been, man? What's going on with you?
I've been great, man. I've been looking forward to talk about this stuff for a while. I mean, I don't like where the FGC's going in the last year or two, and I'm sure you haven't either. So this is why we're making, this is why we're here.
That's what this podcast is for. That's why we're coming out with like the most controversial topic off the top. We don't give a fuck. But before we get into the stuff, the specific, items that we want to talk about, I just want to give you guys a little bit of rundown who, both of us are, because like some of you guys might be looking at this podcast and being like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, what are these guys talking about? I am Mr. Behavior. I am, I've been playing fighting games since I was a very, very young boy, but, I didn't start going to tournaments until about 2015, 2016 or something like that. Mostly because I'm going to be upfront, which is I have other things that I do that were more important at the time, which was I was playing a lot of music and stuff like that. So like I love fighting games, but I never like got to a level where I'm like super good. Put it into context, I'm a gold in Street Fighter 5 online on ranked. That's where I'm at. I mean, it's better than a lot of people. I'm one of those guys who's like too good to play with his friends, but like not good enough to like win a tournament. You know what I mean? Like, I'm one of those people. Yeah, so that's kind of my thing. I mean, I've been playing fighting games forever, but I also play a lot of fighting games. I don't play one particular game. So that's also been a roadblock for me, right? Like, I've never gotten, like, super good at one particular game because I haven't dedicated a lot of time to that one particular game. Because I just like all of them. But, well, not all of them. There's some I don't like. But yeah. That's kind of my history. I've been like kind of in and out, going to tournaments like in California a lot over the past like 5 years now. I don't live in California anymore. But I still give a goddamn about fighting games. And I want you guys to have a fucking community that doesn't suck. And and that's kind of who I am. So Ceelows, tell the people who the hell you are.
All right, so I'm Ceelows. I've been, I guess in the FGC for a good like 3 years now. Around 2016, I got into Street Fighter 5. Like, I was into Street Fighter 4 for years, but I was never really good at it. I kind of just play with my cousin and a bunch of friends. We were just kind of like messing around. Maybe we'll watch an Evo here and there. And then eventually Street Fighter 4 died, and Street Fighter 5 came out in like, what, 2016, I think it is?
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, it's been out for a little while. So I got into that. I didn't actually get too deep when it came out because it was really, we all know.
Yeah.
I don't have to go into that, but like I think after a few months I stopped playing it for a bit, and then Akuma came out. I got back into it, and I realized there was a Twitch scene for Street Fighter. I said, let me get into this, and then I found people doing battle lounges, and then I said, this looks kind of cool, like people streaming battle lounges. So I started streaming, and then that went from streaming to going to Evo and meeting people all over the country and going to events, and that's mainly how I got involved with it, and going to NLBC a few times. I don't frequent NLBC too often, but the times that I have, it really got me closer to like what the FGC is all about. And that was mainly from 2017 to 2018. And then as the years went on, I wanted to take streaming more seriously, but I realized that Twitch by itself isn't the greatest platform to get your game out there. So I started on YouTube, and that's where I started making the soccer tutorials, which I'm surprised they even got that popular.
Yeah, those were good.
I mean, yeah, people still find them, which is really cool. So that kind of inspired me to make tutorials for other characters and start this whole like YouTube and Twitch back and forth. I don't want to say career, more like a recreational hobby that brings in some moderate income for a while. But you know, recently, as I was doing YouTube and Twitch back and forth, I've seen just the FGC just kind of go in a really weird direction that wasn't the case when I got in. So when I got in, it was basically just memes and fighting games and tutorials.
Right.
That's pretty much it. It was just us, everybody in the community having a good time. And now in 2020, it is the most political community I've ever seen.
Right.
And I would argue the least intellectually diverse community I've ever seen.
Yeah, right.
And I don't see anyone. I mean, we don't see anybody talking about this.
That's
kind of why we're here, or this podcast started. So.
Yeah, it's funny because we got into like going to events and stuff around the same time, right? Like, and I agree. Like, I don't know. Even when I was younger and I was more like just kind of like watching things on the internet and things like, you know, I went to Evo a couple of times now. I've been to Evo a couple of times now, and when I was getting into it, I agree. It wasn't like this like hyper polarized kind of thing. And now it's like, at least it seems this way on the internet, right? Like, but especially because it's like, you know, people are getting banned and people are like over things that are just kind of like normal, normal ideas. Yeah. And so like what I felt like the fighting game community used to be, at least when I was starting to get into going to tournaments and stuff, was like, it just used to be a thing where people would go and talk about fighting games and like not let anything else kind of like creep in. And that was the fun part, was that I got to be around people who gave a crap about what I had to say about Street Fighter because they gave a crap about Street Fighter. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and now it's become it's become hyper politicized. And yes, that's what we're here to talk about today. So we've got a couple of topics for today's program that are a little older. I mean, a lot of these things, I think up front are going to be, we're going to have some stuff that you guys maybe have heard about, but maybe from one particular perspective. And I think that's kind of what you were alluding to, right? It's like people are not intellectually diverse. There's no challenge, right? And any challenge is seen as negative.
And it's, you know, I not only just to bring these things up from when they occurred, and just more so to go into why, like, what is the drive behind the things that we're going to talk about? Like, what is the drive behind why people bring this out, and what are they trying to achieve as the end goal?
Right.
Where does it really come from? And why isn't the FGC as intellectually diverse, I guess, as it used to be? I mean, I came in kind of late. I don't know how diverse it was before 2017.
Right. Well, I mean, I would say that I think that's just kind of, the FGC has been swept up in a larger politicization of like most everything. And what we're here to do, and what I think a lot of gamers want to do, right? That's what Gamergate's about, right? It's like that kind of stuff. Or like, there's got to be some kind of a gatekeeping in terms of like, you know, what is considered to be part of like a core ideal of this community versus like just a core ideal of some of the individuals within the community. As the first thing we want to talk about is, so I was at this Evo last year, 2019. Were you at 2019?
Yeah, I actually was. I mean, see, the thing is, when I go to Evo, I usually just go to party. I don't really the competition all that seriously.
Okay.
Obviously, I compete. I play in pools, but really, it's I kind of have like a set goal in mind where like from when I wake up to around 5 o'clock is really like Street Fighter related stuff. After that, really anything goes. Sometimes I go gamble. Last year, I was really in downtown Vegas the whole time.
Nice.
So I didn't really know, besides what we're about to talk about, besides that, I don't really know what was going on around Evo, because the thing is, like, I know there's a lot of events that go on. There's a lot of like FGC parties, which we can even go into it like at some point.
Yeah.
I don't ever go to those.
Yeah.
I went to those, I think, in 2017 or rather 2018. And
I went in 2018 also.
Yeah, ever since 2018, when I went to those FGC parties, it's like, this isn't for me. It's not my kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
We were at that same Evo. It's just funny.
Yeah, we're at both of those. But yeah, so this happened at Evo 2019, and it was a panel. And the reason why we want to talk about this panel is not to necessarily review this panel, but more to critique this panel. Which
delve in,
yeah, and this is something that you showed me, because actually I think I was aware of this. I think I was aware of this happening in 2019. I just was like, I kind of rolled my eyes and didn't do it. But it was the women in FGC panel. And the reason why we want to talk about this is not because we're misogynist, not because we don't want women in the FGC, but because the idea of...
Because kill all men. Come on, bro.
It was what?
Because kill all men. That's what...
Yeah, because kill all men. No. See... There was a woman of the FGC panel last year at Evo 2019, and I have a few things that I want to say about it, and I think that a lot of people had a few things that they want to say about it, but their voices might be a little bit lower.
Not allowed.
Not allowed. And it had a few people. It had a few people on that channel. Do you remember like who exactly was on it?
I know. Obviously, there's I believe it was Marine. There's Ricky
Yes.
And like 5 others that I weren't really that familiar with. Maybe you're more familiar with them than I am, but
no, I'm not. And so, and because a lot of those people were saying that they were newer also. They were even newer than like you and I.
Okay. Interesting.
And so, but yeah, Marine was there, and Ricky Ortiz was there, and just a couple other. I think one girl from Equinox, which I know about them.
Okay.
And somebody from. Go ahead.
Like this is why we want to get into this, is because like we only know about maybe about 3 people in there.
Yeah.
And the thing was, it kind of started with a slogan of like, this is a panel to let people know what's going, like what women are doing in the FGC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it obviously didn't do a good job, because we still don't really know these people. And it's like that's why it kind of intrigued me when I first found out about it. I was like, okay, there's some people who are contributing to the community, and this panel maybe can inform people of what they do.
Yeah.
And it didn't really, and that's why we're talking about it today, because it kind of it had this ulterior motive. It seems
sort of. Well, there were positive things, right? Like I listened to the whole thing, and I near the end they were talking about one of the girls was talking about how she got El Tigre up here, and they were, trying to get, they're trying to get people to, who, couldn't get visas over to, come and play. And that, those things are totally positive, and that's great. The one thing about it though, is that I don't know why that has to be restricted to that sort of a panel, because it's like people like, I'm pretty sure she said Justin Wong was involved with getting some of those kids up there too. And so that kind of separation, I feel like is almost silly, but just, I think for me, the fact that in 2020 or 2019, this was right. The idea that like women still need to like have like this place where they claim that they're not represented, or like claim that they're like exclusive, like, you know what I mean? It within the scene is silly, because we know that that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
And we know that like there's a different, like, kind of what you're saying, there's a different ulterior motive. I want to look at one of the comments actually that was on this, and I think this sort of gives sheds a light onto like what I'm talking about here. For those of you who can't see, this is a YouTube comment that we're looking at from the FGC panel, women in the FGC from Evo 2019. It's from somebody named Patron. And he says, everyone in fighting games has to prove themselves before being accepted into the hardcore community. In competition, you get respect for beating ass. No one rolls out a welcome mat because you're like, oh, I like this. There's no room for harassment, sexual or otherwise, in any community, and the tourney should be safe, friendly environment for everyone. Kids, women, participants, spectators, vendors, and staff. But on the competition side, you guys are asking for special favors and confusing it with sexism. Mediocre women catch flack because they get those special favors without showing great skill. What do you think about... So there's a couple of things I don't agree with here, but there's one thing that I think you know that I do agree with, which is the last thing. And I want to know what you think about it. About women confusing special favors with sexism.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lack of understanding of what sexism really is. I think, like, maybe the FGC has... I mean, I don't even say maybe. I'd say they've conflated... whenever they see, I guess, too many men get too much recognition for something, they confuse that with, well, these men are intentionally being propagated to keep women down. And I don't. I think that they miss some key variables. Like, for example, like 99% of the community is men. I mean, this is not uncommon for men to take most of, I guess the spotlight or the glory, I guess, because most people are just men. I mean, like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna force women to want to start competing in fighting games? I mean, like, this is kind of like the natural progression of I guess, like, a community, is that as it grows, they're usually male, so you're just gonna have a lot more men in a community, and then a lot of those men do really well and are very competitive. So most of the time, you're gonna see mainly men in the spotlight, and I think they're confusing the two. And the thing is, they at least when I skimmed through the panel, they didn't give specific examples of what is the force driving women down, and from their perspective. Like, I don't really know.
Yeah, so this is where the part about the harassment and sexual harassment comes in, because a lot of the things that I was hearing from that panel were aligned with sexual harassment, and I don't doubt that sexual harassment happens. I mean, we all know what was going on in Smash, which is probably a whole other episode on its own, so we won't get into it. But that's not to say that those things don't exist. But what I'm concerned with is the fact that this is the hyper focus of their panel, right? Like, instead of, like, that's the upfront focus. They didn't lead with, hey, we're trying to get people to, like, come to the US and play on visas and all that kind of stuff. They led with, we get harassed because we're girls. And what I don't like is, first of all, we all know that there's a level of expanding definitions of things that exists within, like, these types of communities and people who kind of bitch about this stuff. So I don't know how much of harassment is, like, expanding the definition. That means, like, here we go, like this guy said, on the competition side, you're asking for special favors and confusing it with sexism. Like, do you not want me to talk shit to you? Like, do you not want me to, like, what is this? What is harassment in your mind, right? Like, just kind of want to understand that. But also, like, as if guys don't get harassed either. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not exclusive. And so it's like this whole thing where now you're painting, to me, what you're doing up there is you're sitting up there and you're saying, wah, wah, which is where the wah man comes from, right? Instead of just, like, getting into the community and just being good if you want to be good, or, like, making friends if you want to make friends, and, like, not worried so much about, like, not spend so much time bitching about people who got you down. You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, I don't. It's kind of like you said, when they mentioned getting players from other countries into the U.S. to play in the FGC, that's what I initially thought the panel was going to be about. Like, just like what women are doing to I guess push the FGC forward, and I guess in a vague sense. And they only touched on those things.
Right.
The rest of the panel was just men are terrible.
Right.
They really don't say why. They just think that these things are going on. It's kind of like this mythical ghost that just, like, intentionally pushes women down. And I'm just like, well, any woman can sign up for any tournament. If a woman beats a man in the tournament, they move to the next round. Like, I mean, you see this in Tekken. You have, I think you have, like, Cuddlecore, one of the best players in the community, doing really well. I mean, like, if this if this presence existed where it's intentionally keeping women down, then how do we allow these players like Cuddlecore to do really well?
Right.
Like if that were true, I think they're doing a pretty poor job.
Yeah, right.
In some of these games, you do have women doing really well.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I think you touched on that point a little bit too, where you said like basically the reality is it's just mostly guys in this scene, and that's somebody actually. Here's another comment here actually that I wanted to bring up too. I won't read this whole thing, but there's a point where it says down here, the reasons why you don't see as many women in places like fighting games and pretty much any other competition or sport is because men tend to be more competitive than women. I mean, this is on point. Like that's really what it is. Men on average tend to be more competitive. That doesn't mean that there aren't women that are competitive, right? That just means that men tend to be more competitive, and thus you're going to see them be more interested in competitive types of activities, competition, right?
Yeah. I think it's actually why you mainly have men in fighting games. I mean, I think it's a pretty simple like understanding of it. I don't see what the confusion is. It seems like they're trying to force women into it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could be mischaracterizing it. That's what it kind of seems like. It's like these panels are kind of just like women, like you can play with this too. You can play with this too. It's like, what if they don't want to?
Yeah, right. Well, right. There's going to be some that do, and there's going to be a lot that don't. And this is just kind of like the nature of it. But this is also something that bothers me about that panel. And it's not to be an asshole. It's not to disparage anybody, right? Because it is what it is. But this person even touches on it in this comment and says down here, another thing is that there just aren't that many women in comparison to men who want to compete in pro gaming. You can't force diversity in your community if the demand for more women doesn't exist, like we were just saying. And then said, not to be a dick, but the best player on this panel used to be a guy, which is 100% true. And this is something that's a little bit of a deeper topic that's related to issues within the FGC. And this is also larger. It's like, okay, you have a women in FGC panel. You're kind of unintentionally undermining your point by including a transgender woman who used to be a guy, because it's like it goes to this thing where you're like, okay, well, there's not enough women, so now we need to turn a guy into a woman in order to have representation. That's actually weird. That's actually weird. Like,
I think it's gonna really be very detrimental to this community. That's why I feel like as offensive as it may be, we got to talk about it. Because, like for example, I mean, I think it was sometime last year, just to briefly touch on this, Capcom announced that they want women-only tournaments. So what is that gonna look like? I mean, we could go into a whole thing as to like why I think that whole thing is all screwed up. But even in practice, right? I've even seen like some private tournaments like from Equinox, like having only like woman-only tournaments, and by no surprise, it's mainly trans women winning these. Like,
right.
Everybody's doing really well, right?
Right.
And so, what if you and I just said, why don't we just identify as women and just get in there and win some money?
That's what.
I mean, it kind of defeats the entire purpose, and then it kind of starts a whole other issue where it's just like, what do you like define women when it comes to a tournament?
Right.
And if you can't, it seems like they're not really defining it. It's just anyone can just be whoever they want at any time, and that's going to have repercussions, and it's going to just be stupid. It's going to make the laughingstock of like of these tournaments. That's the whole reason why like the woman-only tournaments don't make sense, because they can't define women.
Right.
It's the whole thing.
Right. Well, I mean, it's just so puzzling to me that a biological woman who wants representation for women within any field, and this is beyond me disagreeing with the whole idea based on what we talked about competition, right? It's like you're kind of forcing things. It's really stupid, but okay, let's go with that premise. Let's ride with it with you. Now you're not even making sense on your own merit, because you're not actually carving out a space for biological women. You're just taking anybody who says, hey, I'm a woman. It's exactly like you said. I could just put on a wig, right? And then be like, well, I'm a woman now. And
what are they gonna say? Like,
like
if they say like, oh, well, not like you're not really meaning that. It's just like, are you being transphobic? Transphobic now? Like, what? There's no line in the sand being drawn.
Right.
It's all subjective. And I don't,
Right.
I don't know. That can lead to very dangerous places when you can't define words.
Right. And one of the things too that I don't get is, I mean, this is beyond the fight FGC. This is just one of the cultural issues, which again, why we're doing this podcast, because these are cultural issues that are seeping into the FGC and kind of fucking up this yeah, and we're just like, no, let's get this out of here. But beyond that, it's like, so it's so strange to me that these, I think 5 of them, there was 7 people, or
Something like
6 or 7 people. I think 1 out of the rest of them was Ricky, right? Was transgender.
Yep.
And Ricky was talking about like transitioning or something within the FGC, and I'm just like, how do any of these women relate to that? so you're not actually carving out a space for women. What you're doing is you're just carving out a space for anybody who says it, which means that you're going against the fact that you want representation, because then you have to accept people that aren't actually women, which doesn't represent you, right? Like, how do you reconcile that? Like, how are you guys listening to this conversation about transitioning and relating to it and like being like, yeah, girl, like, that makes no sense. It makes no sense. And that's not saying that Ricky can't have a place in the fighting game community. What I'm saying is, if people want to have proper representation, quote unquote, for themselves, they can't just accept people who say that they're them. They have to actually, you know what I mean? And that, again, this is coming from somebody who doesn't even agree with the merits of the original argument, but I'm going down the path logically, and y'all don't even make sense. If you want representation for somebody like Ricky, why don't you do a trans women in fucking at the FGC? That would make more sense to me. You know what I mean? Because it's not like those people don't exist, but and there's a lot of them, and we're gonna talk about that too. But like, it doesn't make sense from their own argument.
Right.
You know, like, that's the thing. It's like, you guys aren't even thinking about this correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it's self. I mean, a lot of what we're going to talk about, we're going to basically break it down, and we're going to show like a lot of these ideas that, like you said, it comes from culture seeping into the FGC, and we're going to go into these ideas are self-defeating by nature.
Right.
They are inherently self-defeating, and that's why we're not with them.
Right. Exactly. But that's kind of a good segue. I mean, like, look, let's in terms of the panel, there were some positive things, right? There were some things that I could say, okay, I'm with that, right? And if you're a chick and you want to be dope at a fighting game, I'm not gonna be mad at you. I'm gonna be like, sick, like, dope, like, teach me how to do some shit, like, you know what I mean? But like, when you start making it a huge deal about like, hey, like the guy said earlier, you want special favors, right? It's like, they talked about, there's like, oh, if your boy says something messed up, like, you should check him or something like that. And it's like, look, man, like, I don't know why you guys are talking shit to each other. Like, I'm not just gonna hop on. Also, it doesn't. Here's another self-defeat. It doesn't actually make sense that you want to talk about how you're strong and independent women, but you want men to like protect your honor if somebody's like talking shit to you or something like that. Those two ideas are inherently
they cannot coexist.
They can't coexist. Either you're going to be in the world and be treated the same way that guys treat each other, which is what you seem to be asking for, right? Or you're gonna be a chick, which is fine too. I think it's probably more advantageous if you just accept the privileges of being a woman, which is men are gonna defend you when shit like that happens. But don't be disingenuous about the fact that you want those kinds of special treatments, right? And then say that you want equal treatment. That makes no sense, because those ideas don't make sense together.
I wonder if they intentionally don't want equal treatment and they really want more treatment. Sometimes I wonder, like, is it because they don't understand the ideas that they're presenting really well, which is probably what it is, and maybe they just don't see the self-defeating, like, how it's self-defeating. But I do wonder if any of this is intentionally, like, shown to give more privilege to specific people. I wonder if there's some kind of like elitism in that play. I don't really know, but sometimes it sounds like that.
Hey man, I think that women are privileged in a lot of ways. I think a lot of women don't really recognize that. And I think there's another comment that actually said that. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Let me bring the stream.
It's also like, I mean, this. I feel like this women of the FGC panel sends a really bad message to anybody who doesn't know what the FGC is, because then you're telling them we have this problem where men are treating women badly. Is that really a good message to show when it's obviously not true? But is that really the kind of message you want to tell people who who's thinking about getting into it, they don't really know, and then they come and it's just like, oh, you have all these women being treated poorly by men. It's just like that. I don't think that's a good message to send to people, especially even women who want to join a community. It's going to be the downfall, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, like, all right. So this is what I was talking about. This comment right here. It says, "What does the FGC become? It looks like a Magic the Gathering conference about inclusion and diversity." Let me guess. They talk about toxic masculinity, the problems with testosterone, and the issue with joysticks and chairs that encourage manspreading. They didn't actually go there.
No.
But it says, yeah, we get it. Western women are still oppressed in 2019, despite being the most privileged group of world civilization history. Which, I mean, that's some real shit, man. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you guys are able to move through these places, you know what I mean, and be elevated to be helped a lot more than just a regular dude. And everybody knows that, right? And it's like, the complaints around it are just incredibly disingenuous, and then not to mention. Go ahead.
All these girls who I mean, we're I don't think they were all even top players. I mean, this happens really often where you have like women who are they don't even really play the game that much. They're really good at marketing. At gaining a social media following. They don't get sponsored for that.
Right.
And
absolutely.
If you put a man in that position, you don't get the same result.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't even. Like, I mean, there's definitely some reasons for that. Mainly is because a lot of these sponsors look for particularly women to promote their material, which I don't even think is really a problem. I think the problem comes in when the people who are getting sponsored don't see that. They see it as like these women should be put forward. Like because they are oppressed, we have to bring them up. When in reality, it's like they were already up there.
Yeah,
the sponsors already see them up there. These are great people to get our product out.
Right,
so
absolutely.
It's just I think a lot of men and particularly women in these situations don't even see that. They have
no
idea.
Exactly. And that kind of like, do you think that going back to the trans thing too? Do you think that that has anything to do with why these guys are trying to become women because they know that it'll be easier?
I mean,
for them as women.
2020, man. I don't put anything like out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, right.
Like, I mean, because you have to remember, like, 2020 is the year of just like we have this addiction to getting attention on the internet, whether that's through either social media or just getting money or whatever it is. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually some dudes who understand this.
Yeah, right.
They're like maybe subconsciously saying to themselves, like, if I go trans, like, I might get a lot of attention. It's funny. I remember Low Tier God had a whole tweet about this. And man,
do you have it?
I'm telling you, he gets it. He's like, listen, if I came out as gay right now, you have no idea how much attention
absolutely
hope I would get.
Absolutely. And it's crazy how simple it is, right? It's crazy. Yeah. You know, so there's got to be some level of grifting when it comes to that, in my opinion, and I think that has. I mean, there's another layer of that too, which actually leads us into our next topic, which was, you remember this tweet from from like, I think this was like a week ago or something, or no, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. November 20th or 22nd.
Yeah, so it's funny. So for anybody listening, the tweet we're about to talk about is actually how I found Mr. Behavior.
Yeah.
I saw this tweet that we're about to talk about, and I saw what he said because I was looking, because I basically have an opinion that we're gonna get into in a sec, but I was wondering if anybody else thought the same thing I did, and you were the only person.
I was the only person who addressed this tweet in the way that Ceelows was thinking about it. But the funny thing is too, is it's not even a controversial opinion in my like So, for those of you who can't see, I have a tweet up here. Those of you listening to the audio version, I have a tweet up here from Kawaii Face Miles. Now, some of you might know who this person is. I honestly did not know who this person is because I'm not like super into Tekken. I like Tekken; it's fun, but I'm not like super hardcore on the scene. What's that?
Oh, great game.
Yeah, no, Tekken's fantastic. It's Tekken 7 especially is super fun.
Oh yeah.
Highly recommend it. We're not getting paid to say that. So anyway, Kawaii Face Miles apparently played some games with Big Majin, who is somebody I do know about in the Tekken world. And was playing some games with Big Majin on stream, I believe. And said to his audience after the games with Miles that said something that was apparently transphobic, and which was basically just correcting someone in his chat, and when they used what he considered to be the wrong pronouns for this person. This tweet says, "I've never met you, Big Majin, so I don't really understand the purpose of being intentionally transphobic towards me, even though I was actually excited to play against someone who I saw as a great player. Sucks, I guess."
Deny his Ryujin promo, you mean Oki? Just letting you know, you mean his promo, not her. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's a 13-second video, which means like Miles, I guess, was like watching the stream and clipped this and did a bunch of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, somebody said she, and he said no, that's a man. Like that's a man, basically. Like nigga, that's a man. Like in Atlanta. Like okay, here's the thing. People have been making those jokes or like saying these things or being straight up about it like forever, and everybody was like it's like there was a level of understanding that some people were like that, but like we didn't have to accept like their reality. We could accept the reality. Like there's an episode of Atlanta where Donald Glover is like, I think he's in a prison or something like that, and there's these two people sitting on either side of him. One's a transgender woman and one's a dude, and they seem to know each other, and they're talking about like times in school or whatever, and I guess they used to date or something. And this guy's like across the way, he's like, "Man, would you shut the fuck up or something?" He's like, "Man, this is my old girlfriend, like whatever." And somebody goes, "Nigga, that's a man." Like, and he's like, "What?" Like,
Great.
and it's like, so I don't know, to me, I'm like I saw this tweet and I saw this wasn't the thing that bothered me the most about this. Now, what bothered me the most is what I'll put up next, is another image from this debacle. Let me see if I can find it here.
I mean, I guess just briefly go over like where we stood on it when we saw this tweet. When I first saw that tweet, I was just like, this is someone who rejects the leftist premise that men can be women and women can be men. Like he just doesn't accept that. And to the FGC and really to like leftist culture in general, they see that as objective. This is their reality. The reality is anybody can be whoever they want at any time. There are people like us who just simply reject that. Majin reject that right there. And I saw that tweet. I was just like, am I the only one who sees this? And you were the only one who saw that.
I mean, I don't have any of the things that I put up there, but I basically only responded because I saw that Majin kind of walked back his statements with the tweet that's up here right now, which is, it says, for those of you who can't see it, it says, it's an @Kawaii Face Miles, and he says, "Excuse me," he says, "You said what you said, lady. I didn't mean any harm as far as to attack you because I personally never even said hi to you before. I had good games. You tore me up pretty badly, and I said I was upload." What?
Might be a typo.
I said I was upload. I don't think I read that the first time I saw it.
I didn't feel like that.
Me being phobic is a huge lie. I apologize for the misunderstanding. Now, the apology. This was the tweet that got me involved. Which was, you don't have to apologize for not believing that, a man is a woman or a woman is a man. Like you don't have to apologize for that, and you don't have to let them control the narrative and say that you're fucking phobic because you don't agree with that. Like you don't agree with a non-scientific view of gender.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like like I said before, it's like this is how the objective narrative in the FGC is, and there has to be some pushback now.
Right.
I mentioned earlier where this is going to seep into tournament requirements.
Right,
You're gonna
exactly.
have people who can just start identifying as women and who go into women-only tournaments and kick everybody's ass and get free money. I mean,
Right.
this is going to end up in a bad place if this continues, and it's like we have to challenge things like this.
Right.
That's why we see tweets like this, it's like we have to jump in, because it's another thing too. It's like one of the reasons for this podcast is we actually believe a lot of people agree with us.
Right.
They're scared to talk. That's fine. We're trying to encourage you
Right.
guys to speak up against this crap, because this will ruin the culture in the FGC.
Right.
It's going to have really bad repercussions in the next few years.
Right. And also, you know what? To be honest, I want to spread that a little bit further, which is if you're somebody who doesn't agree with us, come on the show, talk to us about it, and we'll have a discussion, right? But the one thing that I really don't like about a lot of what's going on here with this kinds of discourse is the first thing that gets thrown on Big Majin in this case was a phobic, an istophobe.
Yeah.
And it's like this kind of language is designed to shut down conversation around his ideas.
Yep.
And that's not going to be good for any culture or any subculture or any community at all. If you can't discuss ideas without it turning into this whole weaponizing of words, right? Like him thinking that Miles is a man is not going to affect Miles's life.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's like him personally thinking that has nothing to do with whether or not you can live your life as whatever the fuck you want, man.
It's the thought police.
Like it's the thought police, and that's honestly, this tweet is what made me want to do this podcast with you after you reached out and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is what started it, because this whole casting istophobes on people without discussing ideas is actually gonna go back to what you said in the very beginning of this, which is you were saying that there's not a lot of intellectual diversity, and when you have a place where there's not a lot of intellectual diversity, you're gonna have a place where intellect is going to drop.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, man, like this kind of like the soft attitude around like words and things like that, and tie everything back. Oh, everybody's being harassed. Everybody's a phobic. This is antithetical to the type of mindset that you need to play fighting games in the first place. Because you need to be hard. You need to be able to take criticism. You need to be able to level yourself up, learn from your mistakes, watch yourself get your ass beat over and over, develop a thicker skin, and then come back and beat the guy who you couldn't beat 2 months ago. That's a mental fortitude that you need to develop. And the irony is that a lot of these weirdos that are infiltrating the FGC are destroying the mental fortitude of some of these people, like on a grander scale. Because to me, this is what I was saying in the beginning of the podcast of, one of the main reasons I didn't go to tournaments for such a long time is because I was doing other stuff. But a lot of the things that I learned from fighting games can be carried over into your other life. Instead of doing a lot of music, people are going to say that your music sucks. People are going to fucking rip on you. People are going to do all types of stuff. If you can't make it outside in the real world, this happens within everything. If you can't take other people's opinions and decide what to take away that's good and what to drop that's bad without trying to force them to change them, right? How are you even gonna win a tournament? I don't know. Like, and this is like, how are you gonna win at the rest of your life? Like, I don't know.
I wonder if
it bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that ties into why, like, the majority of people who play fighting games aren't good at it. I wonder if.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's people at the top level who think this way, right? Who think like who have their opinions and you cannot challenge them.
Right.
It's not exactly black and white. It might be some like kind of nuance. I do wonder if this way of thinking where they don't, not even that they really can't have a conversation, they don't want to.
Right.
They don't want to have a challenge. I wonder if that's in a similar kind of way of thinking of like, I don't really want to get better. I just want to beat everybody's ass. Like, I don't want to critique myself. And I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thought that you brought up.
Well, I think that's the majority of people in general, right? And like, is not wanting to, especially as we get older, we don't necessarily want to be bad at things, which means that we're not going to improve at anything that we weren't previously good at, right? We're just going to kind of stick with the things that we're good at and stay with it. And I think that's why a lot of people don't play fighting games too, right? Is like, it's hard to get into something where your character is constantly getting, their ass beat, and you have like a high learning curve, and you have to like remember a bunch of stuff in order to do this. But I think that like encouraging everybody to just tie this all back, because we're almost at 45, to tie this all back in order to, get people, I think personally, to get better players, you got to teach people to be stronger mentally within the world as well, right? And like this whole like shutting down conversation, being super fragile because somebody said something that you don't necessarily like agree with, that's not like Big Majin didn't like tell Miles to fuck themselves, or like you know what I mean, or like
you're supposed to be a man.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, whatever, like, so I think that's a good thing. And this take whatever I have to say with a lump of fucking salt, right? Because like I said, I'm not like the best player in the fucking world. I'm not like I'm the guy who's too good for his friends and not good enough for the fucking FGC, right? But like but I still think that carries over, and I do want everybody to have fun when they play these fucking games and not be so goddamn worried about nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, and just to kind of like just tip off on that thought, it's like, it's this kind of disconnect from reality. It's like, when you meet a lot of these people, like, especially like trans people in the community, I find a lot of them don't even give a shit when you.
Yeah, right. Totally.
Like, they're not gonna be like, "Can you please use my pronoun?" I've never actually had that ever happen to me. I actually know a particular person who, someone rejected their pronouns. They didn't even care.
Right.
Like, and I even have a friend of mine, long-term friend, who's full on trans. She had the hormone and the hormone transition and everything, and she hates the LGBT. Like, she hates the whole ideology behind it. She's just like, I want to be trans, just leave me alone. And it's like, if more people had that kind of way of thinking, where it's like, I can do what I want, I'm just not going to force it down your throat.
Right.
It wouldn't really be that big of a problem.
Right. 100%.
On a more broader scale, it's like, in reality, nobody really cares about this stuff. It's really just Twitter and like the whole social media and everyone wanting attention and kind of putting this crap forward, where eventually it's going to become reality. And that's what I'm concerned about too. Like, maybe Twitter is going to be the real world in like a few years. I mean, if it not already is.
Yeah, I think it's starting to become that way. It definitely leak into the real world, and that's definitely a huge problem. Well, I think we come to the end of episode 1. I appreciate everybody for hanging out. Before we go off, though, Ceelows, let everybody know where they can find you and hear some more of your toxic opinions.
Oh yeah, if you want to come and insult me, please. I really like insulting people on Twitter, so you can come and insult me at Ceelows with a 0 on Twitter, and twitchtv.ceelows, all letters, no numbers or anything.
Fantastic. So you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/MrBehavior, MR Behavior. You can find me on Twitter at Real Mr. Behavior. So that's Real MR Behavior. If you want to yell at me and talk to me about my toxic opinions, I also have a channel on YouTube that's Lokes Takes, LOCSTAKES. That's because I am also known as Chris Lokes, but we can talk about that on another episode. Anyways, I am Mr. Behavior. He is Ceelows, and this was the Anti-Oki Podcast. Peace out.
They say you must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance, but homie, you're dead wrong. Just take a glance. Attack me if you dare, son. I will crush you. I'll crack your back. You should be scared, son. I'll bust you. Just go home and be a family man. If not, I'm gonna have to destroy your anatomy, man. It's natural for someone like me to be the world's strongest, because I'm on this. Just being honest. I astonish. My sonic boom flash kicks are right here waiting for you. Wanna get your ass kicked for your plastic. Your kung fu is weak and mine is chic and spastic. Fantastic. You're not a warrior, you're just a beginner. Get up, wimp, and bask in the glory of a winner. My strength is much greater than yours. I'm a street fighting legend, the creator of wars. No use debating the score, I've waited patiently for someone to pound through the ground. I'll smash your face in the floor. Get lost, dog, I'm the boss, you can't compare with my powers. I play this game for the fame, they claim the hundreds of hours.
Listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. No need to worry, a state of euphoria. I won the tourney twice, now I am the world warrior. Using my kung fu to destroy you. Flurry of kicks which only your performer do. Ken's a competitor, write you out like an editor. Stay ahead of the pack, flame attack like a predator. I ain't stretching the truth, my dull Sims the tightest. I'll leave you burnt to a crisp with elephantitis. Need to charge up to bite, scrap attack with Blanca. Yo, I'm warming up my engines when you lose to Honda. There's no doubt, my win count will haunt ya. Wanna try and win again? Well, after this you won't want to. Every street fight is better the second time around. I've learned how to throw down, I'm KO bound. Do I punch light or medium? No, I punch hard, because I'm pretty sure I just kicked and blew up a car. Yo, you're looking like vomit, I busted suplex atomic. I fill the room with the boom that sounds supersonic. Tiger flame so feisty, uppercut so nicely. Sagat will brew you up a batch of Mai Tai iced tea. Listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never